Anthony was not just rich, he was respected. Born into a humble family, he had built his wealth through determination, shrewd business dealings, and hard work. His story was a beacon of hope for many in Lagos. His wife, Vivian, was the epitome of beauty and elegance, a woman he had chosen not just for her looks, but also for her sharp wit and charm. Their marriage, at least in the early years, was a union of love and ambition. Anthony adored Vivian and often credited her support for his success. He believed they were partners in every sense of the word. But as the years rolled by, the once solid foundation began to crack. Vivian, unaccustomed to the pressures of being married to a man whose life revolved around work, began to drift away emotionally. Anthony, absorbed in his businesses, failed to notice the growing distance until the signs became impossible to ignore. Anthony first noticed something was off during Vivian's 32nd birthday celebration. The grand party he had organized for her was filled with the elite of Lagos society, but Vivian's smile didn't reach her eyes. She spent the evening glued to her phone or huddled in corners, with men Anthony didn't recognize. "Darling," Anthony had asked her that night after the party, "you seemed distracted. Is everything okay?" "Of course," Vivian replied with a quick smile. "You're imagining things." Anthony let it go, but the discomfort lingered. Soon, her late-night outings and secretive phone calls became routine. Anthony confided in his best friend, Ralph, who advised him to confront Vivian. "Ralph," Anthony had said, shaking his head, "a confrontation will only push her further away. I need to understand what's really going on." Anthony decided to fake blindness, a drastic step, but one he felt was necessary. If Vivian believed he could no longer see her actions, her true nature would reveal itself. The plan was set into motion after a staged accident at one of his construction sites. Anthony returned home with a bandage over his eyes and a carefully rehearsed story. "Vivian," he said, his voice trembling, "I can't see anymore. The doctor said it might take months, maybe years, for my vision to return, if it will ever return." Vivian gasped, clutching her chest. "Oh my God, Anthony. This is terrible." Her initial concern seemed genuine. She took time off her social commitments to care for him. But Anthony noticed something strange. Her tenderness felt forced, like an actress playing a role. 2 weeks into his blindness, Anthony began noticing changes. Vivian's care turned into impatience. "Anthony, you're so helpless these days," she complained one morning after helping him into his chair. "I didn't choose this, Vivian," Anthony replied softly. Her sigh echoed through the room. "I know, it's just, I have so much to do, and now I have to do everything for you too." Anthony felt the sting of her words but said nothing. That evening, he overheard her on the phone. "Yes, he's blind now," she whispered. "It's like living with a shadow. You can come over tomorrow. He won't know." Anthony's heart clenched. The betrayal he had suspected was now a painful reality. Anthony's life became a silent battle, pretending to be blind while enduring the humiliation of Vivian's infidelity tested his resolve. One afternoon, he sat in their expansive living room, listening to Vivian laughing with a man named Charles. "You're really bold, Vivian," Charles said. "What if he senses something?" Vivian's laugh was cruel. "Anthony is as good as dead. He doesn't even notice me anymore. He's too busy feeling sorry for himself." Those words were a dagger to Anthony's heart. He realized Vivian's betrayal wasn't just physical, it was emotional. She no longer respected him or their marriage. Amid the darkness, Anthony found solace in reflection. He began to see the cracks in their relationship, not as sudden, but as seeds planted long ago. His relentless pursuit of success had left Vivian lonely. But was loneliness an excuse for betrayal? Anthony confided in his driver, Bobby, who had been with him for over a decade. "Bobby," Anthony said one evening, "how do you rebuild something that's been broken?" Bobby paused before replying, "Sir, some things can be mended, but only if both parties want to fix them." "Do you think she wants to fix this?" Anthony sighed. "I don't know, but I need to find out." Vivian's audacity reached its peak during a party she organized at their home. She invited several of her lovers, confident that Anthony's blindness made him oblivious. Anthony, however, had prepared. He had installed discreet cameras and hired private investigators to gather evidence. As he sat in the corner of the living room, listening to the laughter and flirtations around him, his heart broke anew. One of Vivian's lovers, a man named Prince, openly mocked Anthony. "Vivian, your husband is a joke. A blind, rich fool." Vivian laughed. "Let's not talk about him. Tonight is all about us." Anthony clenched his fists, his anger barely contained. The morning after the party, Anthony called Vivian into the study. "Vivian," he said, his voice steady, "we need to talk." Vivian hesitated, sensing the seriousness in his tone. "Is something wrong?" she asked, feigning innocence. "Everything is wrong," Anthony replied. He removed the bandage from his eyes and stared directly at her. Vivian staggered back. You can see?" "Yes, I can see," Anthony said, his voice cold. "I've seen everything, Vivian. Every betrayal, every lie. Every man you've brought into this house." Tears welled up in Vivian's eyes. "Anthony, don't," Anthony interrupted. "Don't insult me with excuses. I gave you everything, and you threw it all away." Vivian fell to her knees, sobbing. "I was lonely, Anthony. You were never there. I made mistakes, but I love you. Please forgive me." Anthony's face softened for a moment, but the weight of her actions crushed any hope of reconciliation. "Love isn't just words, Vivian," he said. "It's actions, and your actions have destroyed us." Anthony filed for divorce, but he didn't do it out of spite. He ensured Vivian received a fair settlement, knowing that bitterness would only poison his own heart. In the months that followed, Anthony focused on healing and rediscovering himself. He spent more time with his family and reconnected with old friends. He learned that while forgiveness is noble, it's also important to know when to let go. Sometimes walking away is the greatest act of self-respect. Vivian, on the other hand, became a cautionary tale. She regretted her choices but realized too late that wealth and luxury could never replace trust and love. Moral lesson of this story: it reminds us of the fragility of trust and the importance of communication in relationships. Betrayal often begins in small moments of neglect, but it's a choice that can shatter lives. True love requires respect, loyalty, and effort from both sides.